Now, lifeadministration.com presents the Life Administration Podcast. Here are your hosts, Leslie Loftus and Ryan Taylor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Life Administration. We've got a bit of a twisty episode today because I'm in the producer's chair, and not without the producer's computer. I don't do the tech stuff. And Ryan is in my chair because this episode is about job hunting, what to do before, during, and after interviews. And I have not applied for a job I haven't gone through the interview thing in about 2 decades.
What's your name?
See, this is why we don't let me do this part. Hi, I'm Leslie Loftus, and I'm going to be your host today. And with me, as always, is Ryan Taylor, who is going to be doing all the hot seat stuff today.
Yes, yes, yes.
And now I get into my spiel because I've not job hunted in about 2 decades. And Ryan has, well, what did you say? Hired more people than most will
ever in their lifetime.
Right.
Yeah.
So
let me start off with my life a little bit before I was a music teacher.
Right.
So I was...
It's very corporate.
Yeah, it was very corporate, very buttoned up. Just like, I got to get out of here. But so I was originally I came up with Hollywood Video, RIP, no longer with us anymore. And then started my own company. And then after that, got involved with 24 Hour Fitness, where I ended up as a regional manager there and had...
Is that when y'all were in Washington State?
Yes. Yep. So I had 53 stores, thousands of employees, made multi-million-dollar decisions on a daily basis. It was the pinnacle. That's not true. That really, when I had my own company, that was the pinnacle of my corporate career. It's a different, when it's your money, there's a different level of sort of understanding and drive to succeed and all that sort of stuff. So, in any case, did a ton of hiring specifically, and did a lot of development as well. And I also worked very closely with our HR folks as far as when it came to how we would interview, what that process looked like, because as we know now, as I'm a music teacher, I had a heart for development and training. I really, really enjoyed that.
As we know from that silly video that's on the website,
right.
You had a heart for development and training, even when you got roped into it.
Right. So that was when I was a district manager with Hollywood Video, and the subsidiary was Game Crazy, and I was a freshly minted district manager.
Fresh. I was maybe
fresh.
23.
I think I was 22 when I got that job. I was the youngest district manager that company had ever seen, and just, man, it seems like a lifetime ago.
By the way, to find that, go on the website, lifeadministration.com.
Click on the bios.
Click on the bios, and then if you click on Ryan's picture, you will get the training video.
You'll get some laughs is what you'll get. You'll get some laughs.
My kids were the ones that discovered it. It was awesome, and I just randomly called him up, and I was like, "Hey, Rydog, what's up?" And he's like, "How did you know that name?" And I was like, "My kids found the video."
You picked up the phone today. What's up, Rydog? Like, you don't even think about it
anymore.
Well,
no, because remember, okay, PC, Mac, and so it's when we're texting and setting things up, I have to make sure it's the green bubble. Otherwise, he doesn't see it unless he happens to be on his laptop, right?
Right.
So I made a separate account with just his phone number and not his phone number and email. So it will always be the green bubble. And it's called Rydog.
Oh!
Sorry. Actually, it's called R-Y with a dog emoji.
Oh, that's exactly. Good. That's good.
It's cute. You got floppy ears.
Yeah.
It's all great.
All right. I'll take that. So anyway, I have credentials in the sense of I've hired a lot of people. I've worked with the surveys before you hire people. I've been absolutely.
You've done the interviews just like.
Yeah.
You got plenty of, because that's multiple companies that you had to interview for yourself.
I had to get.
You've seen it from all sides.
Yeah. To get the regional manager position, it's one step below a VP there. And I had to interview with our CEO of the company. I mean, it was a big deal. 53 clubs, 4 different states, traveling all the time. It was pretty incredible.
And then on a personal note, that's, as I recall, there are like 3 reasons that you don't do that. 1, you had a heart for teaching and stuff, and you really wanted to get back into music. 2, climate.
Yep.
for various health reasons with you and your wife.
Yep.
No sun, cold and wet.
My
was
wife's a
not,
Texas girl.
Yeah, not working. And then the other one was tons of travel, wasn't it?
Yeah. Early on in my marriage, it was very difficult to build a marriage that I wanted to. When I think one year I was in Las Vegas for 23 days out of the month that month, and then the month after, then the month after that it was another 22 or 23 days. I basically lived at either the Mandalay Bay or the Stratosphere for a long time. Anyway, that is not the point of this, but anyway, just to say I know my way around an interview.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So okay, let's get this, let's kick this off.
Let's get this party started. All right. So the things you need to do before the interview. So I'm assuming we're starting from you've gone through, you've looked, you've landed the interview.
Yeah, I think
you want to go back
even
a little
before,
bit further?
I think I'd start before that. So
Okay.
One of the things I think is important that my grandfather used to say was, "You pick the job, don't let the job pick you." Mm-hmm. And so there is a tendency sometimes to work just because you need money, right? Mm-hmm. I need to go get money. Well, I'm here to tell you that from the side of the interviewing table that is actually hiring, you know the difference between someone that is just there for money or someone that is passionate about the thing that you're interviewing for. Mm-hmm. And passion is a critical element to getting the job that you want. So you need to take some time before, whatever that is, like people are passionate about 100 million different things. Mm-hmm. Whatever that is, you need to figure that out and make sure that you're just not doing it just to do it. Now, I will say people might, if you're in college or something and you're working at a grocery store, it's like, who's passionate about being in a grocery store? Well, Leslie, you've alluded to this a couple times that there are elements of that job that you can take and then apply to other things, Absolutely. Right? So you might not be passionate about bagging groceries, but you might be passionate about helping somebody. Mm-hmm. You might be passionate about bringing joy into someone's life. Mm-hmm. You might be passionate about being a detail-oriented person where you throw things up on a shelf, and you might be passionate about putting a planogram together. So maybe that translates into going into the marketing field later on, right?
Well, and then the other side of that as well is, even if you find the lovely job that you're totally passionate about, it still has elements in it that you're not passionate about, that usually they're the administrative kind of elements. Mm-hmm. But, kind of keep that. I worry a lot about people thinking too much about only do what you love. Mm-hmm. That's a bit, it's a nice sentiment.
It's fluffy.
But, right. It's a little fluffy. And if it followed too literally, mm-hmm. It can be a problem. Totally with you on the find what your passion, what you enjoy doing. Absolutely. Or look for pieces of that in various jobs, because sometimes you just do need to put the money on the table. But yeah, I can totally see if you come in and it's really, well, I'm here because, well, frankly, I got to pay the bills. That's going to come off a lot differently to the interviewer than the person that's like, actually, I'm kind of interested in doing this programming thing or whatever.
Well, the perfect example is I don't think that anyone, when they're going into their first job, and let's say, typically there's two ways that you go. You either become a server or you go work in retail, right? Nobody is excited to go work in retail, but what you sell, what you do, that can be kind of different, right? So for me, I have no interest going to work at a clothing store because I find fashion sort of boring, right? But if you know me, you know that I'm a little bit of a nerd, a little bit of a geek. And so I did want to go into video game retail at the time, mm-hmm. where there was GameStops and Electronics Boutique and all that, Funko Land, right?
Actually, it wasn't that long ago. It's just times have changed so much.
Yeah, so much. And it really was a long time ago. I mean, it's like we're talking 15 years, It's been a hot minute.
Well, while we're on the time, 30-second commercial break.
Yeah.
I'm taking all of Ryan's things. Exactly. I want to note that you were talking about your grandfather, some other recordings that we did today. Jim was talking about his dad. Just a shout out to those mentors and those wise people in our lives that listen to them. They've been around the block a few times. They know what they're talking about. They have your best interest at heart. Goodness gracious, you got the grandpa, you got the uncle, you got the aunt, whatever it is. You get good advice there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No. You're absolutely right. They have all of the tools. Mm-hmm. It just takes a listening ear to absorb it.
Right.
And to really pay attention to it. Okay. So anyway, but that was a long way to say, get your passion involved in it. Yes, like retail, no one's going to be ultra passionate about retail until maybe you get to the upper management level, but you can still work in an area that you're excited about. All right. So, all right, let's pretend that you have found the thing that you're passionate about. Okay. Now, let's talk about your resume. Okay. Resume, cover letters, critical. You want to keep your resume to one page. I know that seems like a lot, especially like as you get older and you've had a couple of different jobs, or you're applying for an executive level in management, or you're just coming out of school and you want to put every single intramural activity that you've ever done in the history of the world on there.
Resist.
But I'm telling you, the snap judgment in resumes happens so quickly you can't even wrap your mind around it. And so I mean I have walked people through resumes where they have painstakingly gone through how it looks, how it feels, what's on there, and I'm telling you that people look at it for 15 seconds before you go on to the next one. And I'd even imagine now it's a little bit faster because you're scrolling through it on a laptop, or you're scrolling through it on a computer, right?
It's almost kind of like in the old newspaper days, they called it top of the fold.
Yep.
And now it's like, the first screen, no
Yep.
scrolling.
No scrolling.
The important bits need to be before the scroll.
Now, unfortunately,
that's difficult.
Yep. And unfortunately,
and
I can't.
Writing short's hard.
Yeah. I can't tell you what the perfect resume looks like, because it depends on the field that you are applying to, right?
And it depends on the company you're applying to sometimes too.
Yep. And so, but what I can tell you is Google is a great resource. and if you are going into cybersecurity, that there is going to be some sort of template that's out there that says this is what it looks like, right? There's going to be classes online, YouTube, that will say this is what a contemporary resume should look like. I'm just trying to tell you, don't make it too long.
Right.
Also, when you're applying for different jobs with different companies, you can't just have one resume, unfortunately. These days are long behind us, where you can just have one resume and just shoot that out a million times, right? My producer brain just went, and I was like, I can't believe I just made that noise into the microphone. I'm going to have to edit that later. Anyway, so you're shooting out all these resumes, and the next thing you know is you don't have any responses back because you haven't tailored the resume to that specific company. So make sure that you're doing that your resume reflects the job that you're trying to go after, right? That you're putting things on there that have relevant information to the company that you're going for.
I mean, that's radically different from the way we were doing resumes 20 years ago when I was coming out.
Everything is
one very polished resume that you went up.
Yep. Everything today is much more relational than it was, 30 years ago. Business is much more relational. So the second piece of that is your cover letter, right? So
I'm assuming the perfection standards still hold.
Absolutely.
It should be
right.
Grammatically and
I mean, to me, it almost like it should go without saying.
Yes.
Right? Like it needs to be the best possible presentation of you on one piece of paper.
Right.
Think about it that way.
And that means the dumb little errors.
Every I dotted, every T crossed. That's the way I learned it. That's the way you're going to learn it. Space Camp. So,
that was Kate Capshaw line, just so y'all know.
Yeah, there's an episode all devoted to Space Camp. So you go back and you make sure your cover letter pertains to the company. Again, should be different with each one. Applying to the job is work, right? You have to, we talked about in the last episode about scheduling. If you're not in a job currently, then you need to make this your job to go find a job. Like that's how much time it takes to go and do this effectively. Okay. So we've covered cover letter. We've covered your resume and making sure that you pick your job and your job doesn't pick you.
But now this is before the interview.
This
so
is
now
all
you've
before.
Landed, right.
Yep.
You've landed the interview.
So now we've landed the interview.
Right. So you know. Well, because you might not know who's interviewing you, and you kind of need to.
No, yeah. So typically, in today's world, you are going to go through multiple interviews before you quote unquote get the job.
Oh my good. Okay, I have some friends and family that have recently gone through interviews, and like I said, it's been a while since I've done anything but, freelance pitches, which are not at all the same thing. There are 5 freaking interviews. I mean, so even when I was, interviewing as an in-house lawyer at an oil company, I think there was the initial interview and a follow-up. That's it. Oh my goodness. Yes, please continue.
Yeah.
Because this is just totally different than anything I know.
So it's very hard to, maybe back in the day you could find out, well, this person is the vice president of human resources. There's a significant chance that she'll be interviewing me. And so you can kind of dig up a little bit of information, right? That's not happening anymore.
No.
The best thing to do is to find out as much information about that company as humanly possible. Okay. So what do I mean by that? I mean like humanly possible, right? So the first thing that you want to do is understand what's their mission, right? Every company has a mission statement.
You can usually, might even be a requirement that they put a mission statement on their website. Certainly if they're a B Corp, if they're one of those quasi charitable ones, they have to have a mission statement up. Yep.
So their mission statement, what are they trying to accomplish, right? And this is typically, a touchy-feely sort of comment that says, this is what we're about, and this, that, and the other thing, right? Have that bad boy memorized, right? It's typically 1 or 2 sentences. That's about it. Underneath the mission statement will either be a value statement or sort of the identity of the company, right? And this might be a little bit longer. These are things that they strive to do, right? We strive to promote equality. We strive to leave a better environment. We strive to whatever, right? So every company is going to have a different sort of thing depending on what it is. But the reality is the best way I could say is learn the DNA of the organization, right? Okay. Where did they come from? Who started it? What was the founder's name? Are they public? Are they private? I mean, that's just a couple things off the top of my head, but and again, get on the old Google machine, right? It's all there for you.
Most larger companies, and I'm probably most mid-sized most companies have websites.
Yes.
They will have an about, they will have legal, they will have contact information. Click through all of those links and you're going to come across most of the stuff that he's talking about.
Yes.
And certainly, even if you don't come across something that specifically says mission statement, you'll be able to discern kind of the tone of what they believe, what they want to do, what they're trying to sell, what they're trying to convince you to buy.
Listen, you and I are a 2-person team of lifeadministration.com. One of the first things that we did was come up with what our values were.
Yep.
And we're gonna put our statement out there. This is what we stand for. This is what we're about. So if one day we come and hire someone, we would expect them to know that. And if they didn't, I'd say, well, we're on to the next person.
Life administration, you're a podcast about typing. Okay. You didn't even bother.
No, you have no idea what we're about. Right? You have no idea that ultimately our mission is to free up time for people and for have them enjoy their lives and understand and put rhythms in place so that they can do things.
They can do all the other stuff that they want to be doing.
They want to do, right? It's like we want to get rid of all the life administration. That's what we should really call it. Get rid of it all so you can go do the things you want to do. Okay, anyway, so understand the DNA of the company. Right. Cool. All right, we got it. So I want to segue really quick. Okay. I want to sidestep here because there has been this new phenomenon of group interviewing, right? So this
yes.
And I have done both group interviews and one-on-one interviews, so I can speak to both of them. But I'm going to tell you, in the group interview format, what you're looking for is a dynamic personality. You're looking for the person that is willing to step up and say something, even if it's not necessarily right. So if you're in a room full of 10 people, an interviewer asks a question, he throws out something and he says, so what did you guys think about the blah, blah, blah? Man, oh man, you better be the first person to say something. Because what they're looking for is someone that's bold, that's willing to step out, that they're looking to take chances, that sort of thing.
Now,
right?
Will this question be something like, what did you think about the Super Bowl? Or like something random out in culture or something within the company? But regardless,
I've seen it both ways.
Okay.
I've seen pop culture
Regardless, but
questions.
jump
I've
in.
seen, hey, we're going to show you a quick video and then we're going to ask you guys something about it, or who knows something about the company. I've seen it all different ways.
Got it. So they don't want the person that, so you're in a group interview, there's 5 people in front of you, you're sitting here. They don't want the person that's sitting there and just willing to watch the other ones banter and talk.
No.
Immediately. Clearly you're not, they're probably modeling their corporate environment and how their office works, and they're trying to see if you're going to fit in.
You're getting power ranked is what's happening, right? So you're getting ranked, and the easiest points to get are the people that stand out visually and that are willing to. Now, right, you don't want to be the guy that talks so much in the room that you annoy everybody else. Like, you hate that guy.
There's a balance there, absolutely.
But I'm going to tell you one of the biggest tips that I can give someone in an interview is when someone asks a question, you make a short, quick, concise answer. You get to the point, and then you shut your mouth until the next one. But what people will recognize is that every time that they ask a question that you had something to say and that you weren't afraid to say it. Nobody's expecting you in the interview process to know every single policy and procedure of that company or to agree with what the interviewer is saying. That's not the point. The point is that you said something and that you were willing to step out and take a risk and present yourself. That is critical.
And you weren't trying to monopolize the whole thing.
Yeah, and you also understand social dynamics, right? You understand that, yes, I'm getting out there, I'm getting out in front. I want to show that I am going to be a leader in this organization, but I'm also not going to be the guy that monopolizes your time and says the same thing 900 times over again.
Follows you into the bathroom and keeps talking about the thing that you went into the you were going into the bathroom to get away from that person.
Right.
There's one in every office.
Yes, absolutely. Right. I can't stand that guy or gal. I cannot. All right. So that's my quick 30-second commercial break about group interviews. Now another phenomenon that has come after the group interview, I'm just trying to take it through the most advanced way possible. After the group interview, if you survive that, we'll say, you're probably going to get to the questionnaire. Okay. Or you might get the questionnaire before the group interview. Nevertheless, most companies are doing some sort of screening process these days.
Now, is this a personality questionnaire, a competence questionnaire?
Usually it's a combination of both, and it's usually going to be a competence questionnaire depending on the detail of the job that you're doing, right? So the more technical your job is, maybe the more competent things that are in there. But most of the time, what these questionnaires are designed to do is to see if you are who you say you are. Okay. So they're going to ask you the same question 3 to 5 different ways. It's going to be the same question, but what they're going to be looking for is consistency in your answer, right? So typically these questionnaires come and they have sort of a strongly disagree, don't care, agree, strongly agree. It's this sliding scale of 5, right? Everyone's seen that.
We've all taken those tests, and you can find them all over social media. You know, which Disney princess are you
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. You've got the questionnaire in front of you. You need to take away these options. Do not exist anymore. Agree, I don't care, disagree. Those 3, chuck them out the window.
Okay.
They're gone, right? Because these tests, the way that they're designed is, again, you're just trying to see who this person really is. If you go strong one way, you'll always go strong that one way in that question, right? It like the question may be asked differently, but you'll still get the gist of it. And if you limit it to your mind into strongly agree or strongly disagree, that's the best thing that you can do.
You're going to come off as more consistent.
You're going to get a +5 or you're going to get a +3 or you're going to get a -3, right? In these different categories. So you're going to swing the pendulum one way to the left or you're going to swing it one way to the right. What that's going to do is that's going to help you with the fact of you are who you say you are. You're not going to contradict yourself. You're not going to say, I strongly agree in this situation, but boy, you know what? This one's worded a little bit differently. So but you're not going to then go, well, I strongly disagree, even though it's worded a little differently. No, you're going to go back to the original one where you might be tempted to say, well, actually it's not that big of a deal. Well, it's
so you can end up looking kind of wishy-washy.
Right.
And indecisive.
Right. And so what you're wanting to do is just get rid of that. Get rid of that piece. All right. So I think take your time on these things. Read the questions very, very carefully. Don't get freaked out. Don't get nervous. And then if there is a competency piece of it, and I've given less of those, but I have given some to district managers having to solve like sort of conflict resolution, those kinds of issues. What do you do with these?
That would be
right? What do you do? Interview. Right? That piece is, that's just about knowing your craft and being confident in your skill set, right? And that don't play it safe. You know, one of the ones I can think of specifically was there was this employee that, you know, through the whole paragraph was like, basically the paragraph should have just read, this person should be fired. This person should be fired. This person should be fired. But a lot of people in the interview process wouldn't fire the person because they didn't want to look like the person that would come in and like chop someone out, you know, get rid of them. It's like, no.
So again, they end up looking more wishy-washy and like they don't have a direction.
Right. And so you just got to be confident in your skill set and go with your gut. You know, you got to do it. And either it's right or it's wrong, but just make the decision and move on. So the whole thing about the
LinkedIn thing.
Yeah.
Think through it. Make sure you're right. Move on.
That's it.
Do it.
And that's it. Right. And forget about it. Right.
You know, measure twice, cut once, but cut.
Definitely. Right. All right. So we've covered before the interview, understanding the company, understanding its DNA. Right. Really, really understand. Because that's going to come into play in the next part of our. Well,
you're going to get it in the group interview, and you're going to get it in the next one that we're talking about.
And you're really going to get it in the one-on-one interview is really when you're going to get it. The next piece of it is the group interview, right? Be bold, stand out, don't talk too much. The next piece of it is be sure and be confident in who you are, make the decision, move on. Okay? When it comes to the behavioral based stuff. Or not the behavioral based, the survey stuff.
So some other, you know, day of interview things like, I don't know, dress, just.
Yeah, Leslie, you got it.
What you bring with you, you know? Like, so for instance, I know as, you know, if I'm interviewing for a position as a writer, well, I've got to bring samples. You know, I mean, like what sort of things do you generally have to think through? Great question. So let's start with the morning of, right? It's kind of like preparing for a date is the way I look at it, right? It's like when you go on a date, you make sure that, you know, your hair is looking good, you got good clothes teeth brushed, lettuce, right? Yeah. Exactly. No coffee breath.
So you may have heard this phrase before, but the phrase really is don't dress for the job that you want, or dress for the job that you want, not the job that you're interviewing for. Once you get the job, it's don't dress for the job that you have, dress for the job that you want, right? So you're plus oneing, right? Okay. You're always saying, okay, if I'm interviewing for a part-time whatever, or I'm interviewing for a full-time whatever, I'm dressing like the interviewer. I'm dressing like they are, or even better, right? I cannot stress this enough.
It's hard to overdress unless you're wearing a tux.
Yes. Outside of wearing a tux, that looks silly.
And you might be, you know,
maybe
interviewing for
waiter
waiter
or something. I don't know.
Exactly. So in which case that makes complete sense.
Definitely.
But yeah, it is. It's really easy to underdress and be off. It is much harder to overdress because even if you have, oh goodness gracious, you can come up with all sorts of stuff for why you have. Well, also if you're a guy, say, and you've got the suit on, okay, well then loosen the tie or something. Like there's all sorts of stuff you can do if you think you're uncomfortably overdressed. It's very hard to do that in reverse.
Yep, and I would say there's no such thing. Even in the group interview stage, right? Like, don't go in jeans. Don't go in, you know, a button down shirt's good. No, wear a suit. You stand out. You are who you are. Be confident in that. People are drawn to that. Do it. Done. End of discussion. Right.
And by the way, because I know Ryan has said this before, and I know my husband agrees with it. For the guys, actually, this goes for the girls as well. If you can. Get the suit tailored. Yep.
Get it tailored.
So that it fits you.
Yep. Or at least get the best suit, right? The suit that you possibly can. I'm not saying like best, like you need to spend the most, get the best fitting suit you possibly can. No one's going to care about the labels and all. Like everyone understands that like you're looking for a job, all that sort of stuff. But you got to look like $1,000,000, right? Get your hair cut, go in clean shave. Like, I love 5 o'clock shadow. It's my look, right?
But you're a music teacher. You can pull off that look.
But
if you were interviewing, I'd be gone.
Yes, absolutely.
Or it would be a proper beard.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, Sean's got a beard. It's all nice and put together and that sort of thing. But like this idea of like, oh, I'm looking cool. Like, no, dude, you're not cool. You're interviewing. Get out. Right. Like that's the end of it. All right, cool. So we arrive we survived the group interview, and we're arriving at the place. We're arriving at the company, right? So if you're an artist, you want to be bringing a portfolio. If you're a business leader, you're going to want to bring maybe some P&Ls of, profit and loss statements of your previous organization. You're going to be able to want to speak to the things that you have done. Now, you don't want to do that unless you're asked.
But you need to be ready.
But you need to be ready, right?
Right.
So other things that you should bring to the interview, and again, we'll get to this in a second, but questions about the organization that are not on the website. I like questions about where are you going as a company. All right, I don't want to get into myself.
Where do you want to be?
Where do you want to be in 5 years? What's the growth plan? Are you looking to stay public? Do you want to go private? Are we going international?
Are you a Texas only company, or do you want to go and branch out? Right.
And so we'll get there in a second. So, all right, we showed up at the interview. We have our portfolio. We have our questions for later. We have our here's what I've done. Here are my accomplishments, and this, that, and the other thing. Also,
ready and loaded. Not pushing them on the person unless they ask.
Bring 2 to 3 copies of your resume with you, because a lot of times these days there are days of interviews set up. So when you do interviews, it's like, okay, I'm doing interviews today from lunch to 6 o'clock.
That's a lot of interviews.
You bet it is. But like this is right. You got to schedule it. You got to get it done. Typically, if you're traveling and you have a multinational area that you're covering or something like that, you have to schedule them this way. So bring them, because you don't want the interviewer to be looking for it. You can just say, here's a copy of my resume. Here's a copy. And typically when you get to this stage, there's probably going to be more than one person interviewing you. There's going to be someone from HR in there.
Because one, you look confident and prepared.
Yep.
And well organized. And 2, now they actually have your details in front of it, and they can ask you
questions about your resume that you are already prepared for.
Right.
You're right. You already have your gun loaded.
Right. You're setting the tone for and almost kind of direct. Back into the scheduling thing that we talked about. You're not letting the interview happen to you. You're happening to the interview.
You are directing the interview without them even knowing it.
Right.
You're saying, hey, here's some great materials that you can ask me about. Hey, and the way I don't just bring 2. I got to believe now in today's day and age with discrimination laws and the way that things are, even in my tenure, once you got to the second interview, you had somebody else in there asking other questions. And specifically, typically it's someone from HR. So, all right. So you've got your resume. Now the questions. Okay. Let's talk about the questions. First off, well, let me back up.
3 adjectives that describe you.
Yeah.
I hate that question.
Right. Well, before you go into the interview, you got to get your mindset right. And there has been more studies about standing in a power pose for 3 to 5 minutes before you go into an interview, just to get your blood flowing and get your mind right. And so what that means is, before your interview, you show up 15 to 20 minutes early.
I would stand up and do a power pose, but Sean might get upset with me.
You stand up and you stand with your hands on your hips, and you look like Superman. You put it right. You spread you take up as much space as you possibly can. You put your hands up in the air. You do the foot right, and you just look at yourself. And it's gonna feel ridiculous. It's gonna feel silly, but I'm telling you, you're gonna walk into that.
As silly as we felt when we were doing our handshaking minicast.
Even worse. Even worse. So you're going to go in there and you're going to have this energy about you, right? That most people are going to come in there timid and nervous, and that energy projects on the interviews. You can tell very, very quickly what's going on with that individual. If you come in and you're funny and you're happy and you're thankful and you're confident but not cocky, you can walk that line, that you already have a leg up, right? Interviewers battle against this two things that are perceived. One's called the halo effect. One's called the devil effect.
I was getting ready to say, does this still, because I think I know where you're going with this, and does it still apply?
Yes. So someone can come into an interview, you can have the 3 minutes of banter before you even sit down and have one meaningful question about their work history, and you can go, man, I really, really like this person. And now they're going to put a positive spin in their mind on everything that you've said.
The halo effect.
The halo effect. The devil effect is the exact opposite. You come in there meek, timid, maybe you're not dressed to the nines.
This person's going to be a hard one to interview. This is going to be a long 30 minutes.
Yep, and you're thinking, oh man, actually I'm not even going to make it to 30 minutes. I'm going to make it 15 minutes and I'm going to get an extra long lunch. Like that's what the interviewer's thinking, right? So that you can get that to work for you or you can get that to work against you. Mm-hmm. So you want to make sure, go into the restroom, get your power pose on, get ready. I would even research power posing if you don't even know about it. Like it's worth it to just go and do
Superman or Wonder Woman.
Yep.
There's your power pose.
There's your power
Maybe
pose.
Batman.
Yep. But stay in it for 5 minutes, right? It's not just like you get in front of the mirror, you do it, and then you're done, right?
Mm-hmm. By the way you just did it is not it.
No, it's not. It's not this. It's not this.
It's not like
it's not meek and timid.
Over.
It's back up. It's taking up space. It's a wide stance. Mm-hmm. It's arms. You're taking up as much physical space as you possibly can. Okay, cool. Halo effect, devil effect, done. Awesome.
And the halo effect and the devil effect is done within the first few minutes.
Yes.
Always. And it's true. It's always been true. People make decisions about your potential on dates, on everything in the first 3 minutes.
You never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Well done. Well done.
So that never holds more true in the interview process.